Hi, thank you for coming. We have a minute left, so I will wait for a few more seconds before we start. Oh, thank you. Okay, it's 7:30, so we'll just start. So let's start with the questions that we have. Um, Kirsten asked, well, it's not Kirsten, James asked, and Taylor also asked when the result will be available. I talked to Dr. Wengren today, and she said there are a few people who had emergencies and they weren't able to take the test yet. I think they are allowed to take the test by today midnight. So after today midnight, so tomorrow, I guess. So after midnight today, you will be able to see the result and you'll be able to know what you got wrong and what you got right. So, also she said the average of the test was about 85. She said so. It's really high, and she's really happy about it. Um, but yeah, you'll be able to see your test scores probably tonight at midnight. If not tomorrow, and she will talk about more in the class tomorrow. Okay, so today, as Taylor mentioned, that um, we already did the test for chapter 4, but I am going to review chapter 4 because it will be covered in the final anyway. Well, because it's comprehensive final. The 50% of the materials will be ones from the past, and the 50% of the materials of the final will be the new one. So I am still going to cover chapter 4 because right before final we're not going to have time to cover everything. So let me um, go back to my screen. And as we go through, if you have any question, don't forget to just type your questions on Canvas chat or using Google Plus. And don't forget to leave your names and the section number why you came, so you can get an extra credit every time you come, and you can get it up to five extra credits. Okay, let's. And then I didn't edit her slides because we will just go through all of them. It now I feel like now it's kind of getting complicated. The materials are getting complicated, and this is basically an introduction of what you will learn next 3 weeks. So you will learn about protein, carbohydrate, and fat, and then you have another exam. So before you go into the detail, this is basically the the introduction chapter to it. Overview of digestive system. Okay, so the definitions that we went through, just know it's important to know, as she highlighted here, after the food get to the small intestine mainly, many of the food gets absorbed through circulatory system if it's water soluble nutrients. And if it's fat soluble nutrients, it will get absorbed through lymphatic system. Oh, and just so you know, the she said that it will be beneficial. So Dr. Wengren said that it will be beneficial to review your midterm, well, your exam questions, ones that you got wrong. Make sure you know why you got it wrong, because the final exams are generated through LearnSmart again. So you might see some questions, the same questions from exams. So you want to make sure that you know why you got it wrong and the correct answers for it. Okay. Um, here, just you need to know that there we have accessory organs, which is liver, gallbladder, and pancreas. And the definition for it is just that they are not directly related to the digestive system. However, they are related, so they are indirectly related. And we will go over how they are in a bit. Sphincters. We have sphincters up here. We have sphincters up here in the stomach. It basically helps to control the flow. Okay, here I have more questions. Let me. Okay, Kimura said that my question is visual. Oh, okay. So I answered your question. That's good. Okay, let me proceed. Oh, and here she talks about mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. Mechanical digestion, we will have the, oh, I'm not gonna, I don't want to confuse you. We'll have the picture later, but it's the relax and the contract part of the small intestine and large intestine. And chemical digestion include enzymes, which ends with A's. So the example of it is in mouth, we have saliva, and saliva it has two enzymes, amylase and lipase. So lipase, lipid like fat, so lipase works with fat, and amylase works with carbohydrate. So like bread, spaghetti, or rice, or any sugar. Um, I think this was one of the. I saw this in the practice exam. I don't know if any of you had this question in the exam, the real exam, but she said that the taste bud decrease as we get older. That's why older people tend to eat more salty food and something that has a stronger taste than babies. Babies eat very um, babies eat bland food, right? Um, Let me check if I don't miss any questions as I do this. Okay, I'm good. Let's see. I don't think this is super important right now. It's just definition. You can read it through. I don't think it. Um, Esophagus, as she mentioned, it's just the pathway from your mouth to stomach. GERD, I think she mentioned this in the class. So heartburn is when you feel um, the acid from the stomach on your esophagus, and gastroesophageal reflux disease, in other words, GERD, is a chronic condition of heartburn. So just know that it's just overall like overview of digestive system. You'll probably hear all these again when we go into different sections of the different chapters. So just be familiar with those. This was also in the practice test. I don't know if you got it from the exam, but the main contributor to heartburn is if you are obese and you eat a lot and all those things. Okay. Chyme. Do you guys remember what chyme is? So after we eat food, the food gets mixed with the gastric juice, then it's not food anymore. It's called chyme. And I don't know, maybe I am explaining. I'm gonna explain this part. I might explain a little more than Dr. Wengren explained in the class, but you will have to know this anyway for later. So I'm just gonna explain this. If you don't understand everything completely, that's okay because it's gonna be you will have a chance to review this later again in different chapters. But all you see all these different parts. So I will explain one by one how they all work together. But before that, okay, sorry. Okay, so first you have this gastrin from G cell. So it's in your gut, it's in your stomach. So G cell produces gastrin, which is right here, G cell. So when it produces gastrin, our stomach knows or our brain knows that food is in our stomach, and so it activates or it signals here parietal cell, and parietal cells produce hydrochloric acid, and this hydrochloric acid helps digest the food that's in our stomach. Also, it helps activate pepsinogen. Maybe I should write it as I do this so that you can have a visual thingy. Okay, so we said gastrin, G cell, like G cell gets activated, and you have gastrin activating parietal cell, and now you have HCl in the stomach. I don't know if you can see this. Hopefully it's big enough that you can see this. And let me double check. There's no questions so far. Okay, we're good. And then this activates, oops, that's all capital. Activate pepsinogen. Pepsinogen to pepsin. So this pepsinogen is released from chief cell, and that's gone. And this chief cells will produce pepsinogens, but it's not activated. And when HCl comes in, it gets activated to pepsin, and it breaks down protein in the stomach. So HCl also helps break down protein and carbohydrate, if I remember right. But pepsinogen you can think of peptides, right? Peptides are the little blocks of protein. So pepsinogens works for protein. You might want to. I think this was also in the practice test, and it will come up again. So you might want to memorize this if you haven't. The way I memorize is just that G cell. It's in the gut, so it's G cell, and it does something to do with gastrin. They all have G's on it, and chief cells. It kind of sounds like chef, or it spells like chef. So it releases the digestive enzymes, which is pepsinogen, and which gets activated to which gets activated by HCl become pepsin. So chief cells kind of it digests because it's like chef. It releases the digestive enzymes. Parietal cells. I don't know how to memorize this. Just read this 10 times every day for 3 days, and you will get used to this word. But it produces HCl. And mucus cell, we didn't talk about this, but mucus cell it produces mucin, and it protects the lining of the stomach from HCl because it's acid. You don't want stomach to burn out. But whenever food is in here, HCl gets produces, and mucin protects the lining. So that's it. I might have went over little bit more detail than she did, but it will be good for you to know those. Um, okay. Okay, Amelia, we talked about this already, but exam scores probably will be posted by midnight today because there are some the students who had emergencies and didn't take it yet, so Dr. Wengren extended the deadline a day. So they will take it today, and hopefully they did already, and your scores and which one you got right and wrong will be all posted, or you'll be able to see it in LearnSmart, I think, by tonight. If not tomorrow, and Dr. Wenger will talk about this more tomorrow in the class. Okay, let's go over this. This is just a summary of what I talked about. Oh, this you might want to know this intrinsic factor. So, parietal cell also secretes intrinsic factor, um, and HCl. And intrinsic factor helps absorption of vitamin B12. It's the distinct role of intrinsic factor, and I don't know why this is so, I guess, important than others, but this you might want to know this for later in the test, or it might come up later as we learn about vitamins later at the end of the by the end of the semester. We went through all that. So, um, Schiff cell produces pepsinogen and gastric lipase, and lipase, like lipid, like I said, it digests fat, but just a small amount. Okay. Uh, Stomach ulcer, that hurts. Okay. Small intestine. Now we are down to small intestine. Small intestine has three parts: duodenum, jejunum, and ileum. Um, so if you haven't memorized this, you probably want to memorize it anyway because it will come up again in this like throughout the semester. And the way I memorize this is duodenum. It's um it's alphabet D, and it's in the beginning of the alphabet order than J or I. So I memorized that duodenum is the first part of the intestine, small intestine. Jejunum is the middle part where it gets all curvy. That's why it's J. So I said that the second part is jejunum, and the third part ileum. I just memorized it. The rest, the last one is ileum, and that's the last part. I don't know if that helps for you, but if you haven't memorized it, it will probably come up if you take another biology class or physiology class. You will have to memorize it anyway, so know those. Um, I don't remember if she went over this in the class, but it's just that small intestine has this vial, the finger-looking thingy, and its main role is to expand the surface area of small intestine. So as food passes through, it it touches more surface and will absorb more nutrient. So it increases the efficiency. Um, this is the mechanical way of digestion. As I mentioned earlier, we have segmentations in our stomach or intestine, and this is the relaxation part, and this is the contrast or I guess not relaxed part, I'm not sure. But we have the segmentations. Accessory organs. Okay, so we have liver, we have bile duct, and we have gallbladder here. So as I mentioned earlier, they're not directly related, but they are indirectly related to a digestive system. Um, okay, sorry, Mindy, I just saw your comments. Okay, so Mindy asked, um, okay, so she asked about carbohydrate. I will answer your questions at the end, just so that I don't confuse other people, but I will not forget and answer your question at the end. Okay, let's continue. So, liver, its main role, it produces bile, which gets stored in gallbladder, which gets and then it goes to this bile duct and it goes down, and then here's your small intestine. So the bile um, helps with, it's an emulsifier, I think. Did she mention that here? No. But bile helps with the digestion of fat. And she'll probably, you will see this again when we do a fat chapter, chapter that talks about fat. So just you know that liver helps with digestion, not directly but indirectly by producing bile. And gallbladder does not produce bile, it just stores bile. Am I saying it right? Yeah, here. So it only stores bile. So she mentioned that if someone has a gallbladder taken out, they can still be fine because it stores bile, and liver will produce bile every time you eat fat. So, oh, she mentioned it here. It helps with the fat digestion. And pancreas, it produces digestive enzymes and bicarbonate ions. So bicarbonate ions, it's important because you know in stomach we produce HCl, which is acid, so it's very acidic, right? And stomach is protected by the mucus, but our small intestine is not protected by mucus as stomach. So um, we need to, how do you say it? We need to make it less acidic, and that's what pancreas does. It produces bicarbonate to make it less acidic, so our small intestine doesn't get burned. So that's what it looks like. Oh, okay. Now we are at large intestine. Uh, I don't think you need to know different parts of large intestine. This is ascending part, this is transverse part, and this is descending part of colon, and that's exit. She said the answer of this question is false because the bacteria is important. Dr. Wengren really likes bacteria. I mean the gut microbiome. So they help with with digestion of different vitamins and stuff like that. So they are important. We want to have them. We want to have more number. So good bacteria are important. So we want to have more numbers of good bacteria. Other they have different names. One name they're called microflora, and as she mentioned, it helps with different digestions of vitamins, and also it helps digest short chain fatty acids, short chain fats. It produces gas too. So she just mentioned that there's probiotics and prebiotics. I don't know if she will go over this later again. But probiotics are the bacteria, the microorganisms, and prebiotics is the food for prebiotics. So prebiotics, the food that bacteria likes, are bananas, garlic, onions, and leeks. So if you eat a lot of those, you will help cultivating the healthy bacteria in your intestine, and you will have a better immune system. You will have a better digestive system, and you'll feel healthier. Okay, we are almost done here. Let's see. So these are all the good things that bacteria do in our gut. Okay, another hormone that acts in small intestine that we need to know, and this was probably in your exam for some of you, called CCK or cholecystokinin, but I just call it CCK because it's easier to pronounce it that way. And many people just say CCK instead of this big name. But it breaks down fat and in small intestine, and it stimulates the release of bile from gallbladder. So if you don't have gallbladder, just your liver will. So when CCK is released, your liver or your gallbladder know that, oh, it's time to release the bile. So they will release the bile to a small intestine so you can digest your fat. Also, it releases pancreatic enzymes for your protein, and it tells stomach that they need to stop um, the HCl, those acid secretion, because or they need to slow down because now food is ready to pass the stomach and ready to go into small intestine. So we don't need to produce that much of HCl as much anymore. So that's what CCK does. This is kind of important. You might see this in the final again. So just know what it does. And I think this is the last one that she talked about probably. Um, irritable bowel syndrome. So that's when you have cramps or abnormal bowel function triggered by either dairy or legume or many different things. So you will always have, not always, but you will have diarrhea and constipation frequently because of a dietary thingy. So there are different types of IBD, irritable bowel syndrome or disease. Crohn's disease is autoimmune disorder. This is when your immune system get confused and attack your own body instead of virus or bad bacteria, and it attacks your intestine, and then you get Crohn's disease. Ulcerative colitis or colitis here is when um, your colon in the large intestine gets harmed, and because of that you have hard time digesting certain nutrient. Okay, I don't remember if she went over this in the class. Just know these terms. It's not super confusing. If you took a biology class or something, you probably have learned this already. So just know these terms. If you have a question, let me know, but I'm not gonna go over this right now. Okay, let me do the questions really quick. I'm gonna go back to my face. How do I do this? Okay, so Lindsay, hi. Uh, so Lindsay said we will go over carbohydrate tomorrow, and if she will incorporate more, how to incorporate healthy carbs into our diet. I am assuming she will. I didn't look at all the slides that she prepared for tomorrow, but I think she will. If she doesn't, I can for sure go over it next 2 weeks review. So yeah, I think she will. Let's see if I didn't. I think that's all the questions here. Let's go back to Mindy's question. So Mindy also asked something about carbohydrate. She said, I am wondering why so many diets today cut out carbs completely. So yes, so many diets they say carbs are bad, and probably Dr. Wengren will talk about this tomorrow, and that's not true. Um, we need carbohydrate, right? Carbohydrate is sugar which makes glucose, and that's the sugar that we use in our body. And for example, brain only uses glucose. If we don't have that kind of sugar, our brain can't work. So we need sugar. Sugar and carbohydrate is the main source of our energy. However, some people eat too much carbohydrate, as we learned in Choose My Plate picture. In the picture, half of the picture needs to be fruits and carbohydrate, and so we need about 50% of carbohydrate in our diet. But if you eat 80%, 90%, that kind of limits other nutrients intake with like fat and protein. We need those, and then maybe you won't have as healthy diet, and you won't feel as healthy. So that's why people sometimes say carbohydrate is bad, but not really. They're not bad. They are necessary for our body, but people misunderstand them. They don't really know, but you know better. So don't believe it when people say carbohydrate is bad. It's good for us and we need it, just like you need protein. But if you eat too much protein, it's not good for us. Like if you even though kale is super good, if you only eat kale, it's not healthy. So everything needs to be in moderation and balance. So hopefully I answered that question. I bet Dr. Wingren will go over more of that tomorrow. Um, let's, okay, so I think I answered all of your question and it's 8:02, so that will be all if I didn't answer your question, which I think I did. But if you have more questions, please email me and I can answer your questions. So I will see you tomorrow in the class if you are participating in the the live broadcast lecture. You can also ask me questions on that lecture. So just type your questions on Canvas because I won't be able to answer you verbally because Dr. Wengren is talking. I don't want to interrupt her. So I will type you back the questions on Canvas chat. So don't forget to use that. It's for your benefit. Okay, thank you. Bye.